slides. Okay, so hi, my name is David Frank. I'm glad to see you. I could wish I could be there in person at the Nordic Reform Conference. I'm sure it's a wonderful time and a wonderful event, and I wish I could see all the other speakers as well. Because I couldn't be there, I had a prior engagement. I actually have to be in Florida during the conference. I made this video instead to introduce you to my work and to the kinds of themes that I would have spoke about in person had I been there. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference. Again, I wish I could be there, and I wish all the other speakers great presentations. Thank you very much. I am a medical sociologist who studies opioid use and opioid use treatment with a particular focus on methadone maintenance treatment. I'm also someone who has been on methadone maintenance treatment for more than 15 years. And the talk that I'm going to give today is called Positioning Methadone Maintenance Treatment Within the Context of Criminalization. And it's based in part on 2 pilot studies that I just recently completed on how well methadone maintenance treatment programs align with the needs and goals of people on the programs. And I'm going to talk about some of those results today. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so specifically what I'm going to talk about is how people use and benefit from methadone maintenance treatment, and what I see as a discrepancy between the way that methadone maintenance treatment is framed and the actual way that people use it. And I see this as being one of the underlying problems with substance use treatment, particularly in the United States. And I know this is an international context, so it might be a little bit different. Although I think some of the themes that I'm going to talk about are probably universal in regards to methadone maintenance treatment. And so what I'm talking about here is that methadone maintenance treatment institutionally is conceptualized only as a way to recover from addiction. It's really seen strictly through that narrative as a drug treatment program. It's about addiction, which is seen as a disease. And when people get better on methadone maintenance treatment, that's sort of conceptualized or understood as a victory of treatment over addiction. Yet, in the data that I've collected, as well as in my own experience, people initiate and use methadone maintenance treatment for much more practical and strategic reasons that have a lot to do with how difficult it is to be dependent on an illegal or a highly criminalized drug like heroin and most other illegal opioids. So they're trying to escape things like withdrawal or overdose, the need to constantly hustle and lie, the need to constantly have to live your life trying to get money and then trying to get drugs. And I want to point out that those things are really products of criminalized drug use more so than drug use itself. So a lot of the things that people are trying to use methadone for are these practical problems that go along with the context of criminalized drug use. And these addiction-based treatment narratives that we use to conceptualize methadone maintenance don't really account for any of that. They don't account for the policy context that drug use or treatment choices occur within. Rather, it's all just on this individual level. People with a disease, they're going to methadone maintenance treatment and they get better. And it's all seen as along that narrative of individuals recovering from a disease. So I'm going to go to the next slide here. So I argue that this view is, for one thing, as I pointed out, there's a misalignment, a mischaracterization between the way it's institutionally framed and what we hear from patients, as well as in my own experience, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But I think this leads to 2 important problems. The first one is problems in the way that methadone maintenance treatment is practiced. Since it's based on this notion, this individual notion of addicts and recovery, treatment becomes all about changing bad and sick people into good recovered people, as opposed to protecting them from the kind of harms I discussed earlier: overdose, withdrawal, needing to lie, needing to commit crimes. It's not really structured to help people with that. It's much more structured this individual kind of improvement, behavioral modification kind of model. So that's the first problem. But it also creates problems in the way that we as a culture think about the harms of substance use. This narrative, this individual-based narrative of addiction and recovery, it really obscures the kind of structural problems that I was talking about, how criminalization and the war on drugs force drug use to be a dangerous, risky, difficult proposition. So those are the two main problems. I'm going to talk more about them throughout this talk. But to illustrate my own experience, or to illustrate this issue, I'm going to talk a little bit about my own experience. I think it'll sort of set the tone. This is how I got onto methadone maintenance treatment. This was approximately in 2003, 2004. My wife and I had both been daily heroin users for about 4 or 5 years. And at this point, we had really run out of resources. We were really at the end of our rope. We were totally broke. We were constantly in danger of being evicted. We were always late in rent. We had long since burned all of our bridges with family and friends just because of lying or stealing or the kind of things that go along with criminalized drug use. We'd also both been arrested recently. We had felony charges. We were on probation, which we were ignoring the things we had to do for that. So it was getting scarier and scarier. Plus, every single morning we would wake up dope sick, and then we would have to find money. And if we were lucky enough to find money, which would always involve some hustling, nefarious, lying kind of crimes, but even if we got it done, then we would have to go to the neighborhood. This was in Chicago, the neighborhood. We had to go to the west side. We lived on the north side. And this was like 2 bus rides, an hour and a half each way. So every single day was just an unbelievable hassle. And we were constantly sick. And it was just getting to be too much. So one day I happened to be home alone. My wife had a temporary job at a veterinary clinic at the time. And I was really sick. And I was just trying to find any way to get money to get well. I was looking around my house. We had already hocked just about everything that we had, but I saw that we still had this old television. And it was a crappy television, even probably when we bought it. But at this point, it was also old. But I figured I could at least probably get $20 from the pawn shop with it. So I lift up this it was old again. And because it was old, it was heavy. And I lived on like the 3rd floor, but I schlepped it downstairs. And I got outside, and this was summer in Chicago, which has a beating down sun. And I was dope sick, and the sweat was just coming out of me. But so I lugged this television 3 blocks down the street to the local pawn shop, and they didn't even want it. They wouldn't even take it. They wouldn't give me $1 for it. In fact, I remember I even asked the guy, "Can I just leave it here?" And they wouldn't even let me leave it there. So when I finally got out the door, that was kind of it for me. I was like truly at the end of my rope. I just put the TV down. I didn't care what happened. But as I put the TV down, I happened to notice that there was a methadone clinic right there. And again, I was only a couple blocks from my house. So I don't know why I never saw this before. But at that moment, it sort of occurred to me, that I could give them the $50 that I was having to come up with every single day. And they would, with no hassle, no problem at all, give me opioids for a week. I believe $50 was the weekly fee at the time. And it just sort of all connected to me that I'm like, I could get my opioids there without all this crime, without all this hassle, without all this dope sickness. And it's only 3 blocks from my house. And so obviously that's what I did. I went in there and signed up. I don't think I had to pay that day, which is why I was able to do it without any money. So let me go to the next slide. So the point of my story is that I didn't get on methadone maintenance treatment because I wanted treatment for addiction, or because I saw myself as an addict who needed to be recovered. It was because dependence on criminalized drugs was an untenable, impossible, unsustainable lifestyle. To be honest, I didn't want to get off opioids at all. What I wanted was access to regulated, legal, safe opioids. And methadone maintenance was kind of serving as the best approximation that a criminalized drug user like myself could come up with at the time. And it worked. It worked wonderfully. And it worked because it addressed the practical, pragmatic issues that I was talking about. It allowed me to access opioids outside of the context of criminalization. Thus, I was able to eliminate that kind of everyday hassle of waking up sick and having to come up with some way of getting money and then come up with getting some way of getting drugs. Because I didn't have to do all that, because I wasn't sick all the time, I was able to get a job. I was able to go to school. I was able to put a life together. So it was all these practical things. I still use dope here and there. But now, because I was on methadone, I had agency over my drug use. It wasn't the kind of chaotic, desperate, trying to not be dope sick kind of drug use that had really been the kind I had been doing before. I could choose to use or not use based on the situation, my needs, and what I wanted to do. And importantly, I was never in withdrawal. I mean, that's really a key. So let me get to the next slide. Excuse me. So the same theme was evident in almost all of the interviews that I conducted. It wasn't just my experience. Participants' descriptions of why they got on methadone maintenance almost never used this language of self-improvement. It really very few people even used the language of addiction, or certainly they didn't use this medicalized kind of language of addiction. They talked about the same kind of things I'm talking about. They're sick of being sick. They're sick of having to commit crimes. They're sick of having to lie to their family. They're sick of the painful withdrawal. A lot of people talked about how their life was this house of cards that could collapse at any moment. And not only could it collapse at any moment, it would collapse at any moment. There was something that was going to go wrong every day. You know, your life was just too tenuous living like this. And people also talked about what they wanted to do, their dreams that they couldn't do because their life was spent scoring dope all the time. They wanted to go to school, they wanted to work, they wanted to take care of their families. So it was clear from my interviews, as well as my own experience, that methadone's efficacy was rooted really in its ability to circumvent a lot of these practical difficulties of illegal drug use, as opposed to just a treatment for addiction. So I'm going to let some of my participants speak for themselves because they really say it better than I ever could. So, excuse me. So this was an interview with Sophia. She said, "It was hard to get the money to get heroin every day. When I didn't get the money, I was getting sick. I got on methadone maintenance treatment because I didn't have to worry about getting sick or nothing. I could just go to the methadone clinic, drink my dose of methadone every day, and not have to worry about withdrawal or nothing like that. It worked out great for me. At the time, before getting on methadone, I didn't have no place to stay. Once I got on the methadone program, everything started to fall into place." Similarly, Spencer says, "I got on methadone maintenance treatment because I was waking up sick too much. And, I have to steal to support my habit. We have to do things to support our habits." And the last quote here is from Barry. Barry says, "I didn't want abstinence from illicit drugs by any means. I definitely wanted to stop the lifestyle that I was going to go back down. I don't think that the methadone community has the idea that abstinence as being the total goal of recovery for methadone maintenance. It's to get your life together. I mean, you can't be fucking going to the west side of Chicago every day, shooting dope in the bathroom at work. You've got to get high every 6 to 8 hours. There's no way to live a life like that." So, excuse me, I lost my place here. So all these people, all these quotes have a lot in common. They're all kind of talking about the inability to live a life while physically dependent on an illegal drug. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Bear with me. So although I think this is not difficult to understand, and I think a lot of us have a sense that this is how methadone maintenance works, it's really not how it's conceptualized at all. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's conceptualized as a treatment for addiction. And addiction itself is conceptualized. Hold on, I'm going to just blow my nose really quick. Much better. So addiction itself is conceptualized as sort of a combination between a disease, a sickness, a disorder, and also a moral failing. So this pragmatic value of methadone as really a sort of a decriminalized way of using opioids, or a legal substitute for heroin, is really devalued in the institutions and to a certain extent in the culture as well. If you sort of talk about methadone in that pragmatic language, that it allows me to swap a legal drug for an illegal drug, that's not going to fly in the clinic. You'll be under greater surveillance. They'll want to drug test you. You'll have conflicts with your counselor, and they can be serious. They can lead up to getting discharged, or what they mostly, I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, but they lead to you not getting take homes. And meaning you have to go to the clinic every day. So you really kind of have to buy into this narrative just out of just to survive out of this narrative of addiction and treatment and recovery. And yet, that when you really talk to people, you find out that's not exactly how they're benefiting. Okay, so next slide. Here we go. So what are the problems? As I mentioned, aside from the fact that they don't really align with the motivations of patients, I mentioned that they also cause problems with the way that methadone maintenance is practiced and the ways that we think about the harms of substance use. So first, I'm going to start by talking about how these narratives affect the way that treatment is practiced. Okay, so how does the addiction narrative affect the way that methadone maintenance is practiced? So treatment, because it's based on this narrative of taking bad, sick people, addicts, and changing them into good, recovered people, ex-addicts, not addicts, whatever you want to call it, treatment becomes an exercise in behavioral modification as opposed to trying to protect patients. It's all about trying to fix them. And thus there are all these extraneous factors beyond just providing people with methadone. Oftentimes they're coercive, either formally coercive, they make you do them, like counseling, or drug testing, or they're sort of informally coercive, like counselors will often encourage you to go to 12-step meetings, whether you want to go to 12-step meetings, whether you believe in that program, whether you think it'll benefit you or not. And yes, you have a choice, but no, you also don't have a choice because your counselor has direct control over your metabolism by being in charge of whether or not you get dosed with your methadone every day. So they have a lot of power. So yeah, there's all this focus on trying to fix patients rather than protect patients. It's also implemented in a highly regulated and punitive fashion. The treatment providers have all of the power and the patients have none. This is also justified through this addiction as disease narrative that positions addicts as inherently disordered, inherently wanting to lie, in need of sort of a firm hand, in need of strong regulation. And it's also very punitive. If you don't conform, to the standards, as I mentioned, you won't get take homes. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But first, I just want to mention it's also abstinence only, which means not only do they now want you doing opioids, but in many cases, most cases, they also won't let you drink alcohol or smoke marijuana, even though this is not what most people want. Most of the people, even if they do want to completely stop using heroin, in many cases, a lot of people still want to use other drugs, and they don't see how methadone, which is an opioid, is related in any way to their other drug use. They don't conceptualize it that way, but the clinic very much conceptualizes it as addiction. It's this holistic kind of concept. It's not just about, oh, geez, I want to do opioids in a safer, or I want to do less opioids, or I want to get a more stable life. It's not conceptualized this way. It's like you're an addict, your life is disordered, and becoming a good person involves adopting abstinence only. So it's a serious business. It could lead to discharge, but the way it mostly manifests is through this issue of take homes. So in almost every clinic, and I believe it's actually federal law, although clinics have a lot of leeway in what they test for. So a lot of clinics test for marijuana and alcohol, and they care about that. Some don't, but most do. So if you smoke marijuana or alcohol, you will not get any take homes. That means that you will have to go to your clinic every single day, forever, 365 days a year, although some aren't open on Sunday and they'll give you a take-home dose on Sunday. But aside of that, you have to go every day. They often have very restrictive hours. They're always early in the morning. So there's really no way for people, even people that are benefiting, that want to do this to sort of get a job or go to school. I mean, try to think about in your own life, if you had to go somewhere, anywhere, every single day at 6 a.m. and then wait in a line where you would have no idea how long that line was going to be. You also had no agency in that setting. You could never say, hey, I got to be at work a little early today. Can I just get my dose and go? It's not that kind of a thing. You're marginalized. You're seen as this marginal character under the regulation of the clinic. So yeah, that's a huge problem. It makes it really hard for people to stabilize, to take care of their families. And ironically, that's one of the things the clinic wants you to do. They'll be like, you need to get a job, you need to go to school, and yet also our organization and our regulatory structure is going to make it impossible for you to do that. So again, I'm going to let some of the people that I interviewed tell you about this. They do it better than me. So this is Samantha. She says, I hate methadone maintenance treatment because it's like liquid handcuffs. Say you want to go somewhere for a few days. You need take-homes, and if they won't give them to you, there's nothing you can do. The outside world, or people that are not on methadone maintenance treatment, they don't really understand what that's like. Take-homes are the biggest thing, the biggest problem. Everyone has trouble with them, whether it's losing their job, or they can't go out of town, or they're just late or sick. And then especially with Hurricane Sandy, whenever there's going to be a storm in the forecast, hide some of my pills just so that I'll have something just in case. And this next slide is from Barry. We heard a quote from Barry before. I actually knew Barry not just as a participant, but as a friend. He started at the same clinic that I started at in Chicago, which just by sheer luck happened to be one of the few clinics in the United States that is not so into this recovery narrative. Well, they are, but they're also into a harm reduction narrative. They were less into the recovery narrative. So they were tolerant of things like drinking alcohol or smoking marijuana. They really, they looked at things in context the way I wish other clinics would. Oh, geez, this person is doing way less heroin, or oh, they're not shooting up anymore, or oh, their life has improved. That was their approach. And since it was my first clinic, at the time, I just thought they were kind of all like that, and I was in for a rude awakening later. But so this is where I met Barry. Unfortunately, he was in for a rude awakening as well, because he ended up moving to Cape Cod, which is a small little town in Massachusetts, and they had one clinic. And this one clinic, like most clinics, was very much into this addiction recovery narrative and the abstinence only and everything that goes along with it. So this is how Barry describes it. He says, I was able to do the things that normal people do at my old clinic. Normal people go to bars. Normal people smoke weed. Normal people do those things when they want to do them. Now, if you're going to tell me, because when I was between the age of 16 and 22, I shot dope and I was a heroin addict, fine, you could say that. But don't let that define the rest of my life. Don't tell me I can't go to a pub and have some beers. Don't tell me I can't smoke a joint with my buddies, because that is bullshit. You just want to live a regular life, and they try to impede on you living a regular life. Then that's where it bothers me. And that's where I say, you know what, fuck it. And that's why I said, fuck it in Massachusetts. And as he says, Barry did say, fuck it in Massachusetts. I got a call from him one day. He was very upset, very frustrated, understandably so. The clinic was constantly giving him trouble about, as he puts it, smoking pot and drinking. They were forcing him to go every day. He wanted to live a life. He wanted to have a job. They were making it impossible. And he basically told me, the way that these clinics are set up makes it impossible to recover, to be stable, whatever word you want to use. So he did end up quitting. And a few weeks, maybe a couple months later, he was dead from a fentanyl-involved overdose from using illicit drugs. So, it's almost hard to accept, even after the fact, that for something so small like marijuana or alcohol, when he was doing so well, that, they forced him out of the system and he ends up dead. So the stakes are high. The stakes are very high. When you place these kinds of rules on a patient population, we know statistically, empirically, that large portions of them are going to quit, and they're dependent on illegal drugs. So they're going to have nowhere to go but back to the illegal market with all of its risks. And today, the risks are substantial. So let me go to the next slide. The quotes that I read, they weren't cherry picked. Most people on methadone maintenance treatment hate the treatment, at least the organizational structure of the treatment. A lot of them value the methadone part of it, but they hate the organizational structure. And we could see this statistically. Rates of use and retention among people who have opioid use disorder, kind of a problematic category, but whatever. Less than 10% of the people who would benefit from methadone maintenance treatment are involved with methadone maintenance treatment. And I would ask many of them, when I was interviewing them, because I also interviewed people who had previously been on treatment and quit, and people who had never been on treatment, and they all had the same, reasons. I would love to be on methadone maintenance but I could never do it because I'm not going to go every day. It's not hard to understand. Similarly, patient dropout rates are about 50% annually. So that means every single year in a maintenance-based treatment that's supposed to be sort of indefinite, we have half of our patient population dropping out. And, 49% of that group are 99% of that group. Sorry, I'm making a statistical mistake there. But most of those people are going to go back to illicit drug use and all of the dangers that go along with it. So this is a giant problem because methadone maintenance treatment, if delivered in a sensible way, is a wonderful harm reduction tool. It's demonstrated its ability to reduce rates of overdose. It's demonstrated its ability to reduce rates of HIV transmission, of Hep C transmission. And then, as I've alluded to a couple times, we've got an overdose crisis now. Back when I was using regularly, it was a really different scene. The danger, or at least the perceived dangers, the actual dangers of overdosing were far less. I never overdosed in years of injecting every single day. And yeah, I knew people that overdosed, but it wasn't like it is today where like people are dropping like flies and it's this substantial risk. And this is, of course, driving people to methadone. A lot of the people I spoke with were like, yeah, I'm going to methadone because the game just got too risky, with fentanyl and whatever's the next even 1,000 times stronger carfentanil. I'm just not willing to take those kinds of chances anymore. So that's why they go into methadone. Unfortunately, a lot of them have experiences that are similar to the one that Barry described. So next slide, please. So I also said that I would talk a little bit about how the addiction recovery narrative affects the way that we as a culture think about the harms of substance use. And what I mean by this is this narrative of addiction and recovery, and using that narrative to understand methadone maintenance treatment and the success of methadone maintenance treatment really obscures the role of policy context, specifically criminalization and the war on drugs, as a source of harm. If people are going onto methadone maintenance to escape those harms, and it is in fact working by preventing those harms, then those harms are some of the problems that people are experiencing, not so much addiction. And this narrative of trying to put it all onto the individual, well, you're an addict and now you got better because you're in methadone, rather than, you got better because your drug use became decriminalized, is really a wonderful narrative for the war on drugs because it prevents any critique of the war on drugs. It obscures this benefit of switching from an illegal drug to a legal drug. I would certainly argue that people aren't getting better because of this addiction thing. They're getting better for these pragmatic, easy to understand things that methadone takes them out of that criminalized network. It decriminalizes their drug use. So we need to be looking at that instead of looking at the ways that drug policy has made substance use much more dangerous than it needs to be. This narrative just focuses us on the individual's abstinence, recovery, that kind of thing. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So my aims are similar to the ones I've kind of just mentioned. I think we need to recognize the role of the war on drugs, criminalization, and drug policy in general as a force of oppression for people who use drugs, and that treatment settings are made in that setting. I really think we need to get a sort of oppression narrative as opposed to just an addiction narrative that is structural and institutional and looks at how people benefit by avoiding oppression as opposed to by recovering from a disease. Obviously, we need to think about how context affects drug use outcomes, how the war on drugs is a force of harm, and challenge these individually based narratives of addiction. So in terms of actual policy changes in the clinic, I think we need to adopt a low threshold approach to methadone maintenance treatment. Low threshold approaches are those that don't so much determine how the patient is supposed to conceptualize their treatment. They're more harm reduction oriented. They sort of work to meet people where they're at. They allow for a variety of treatment goals rather than just abstinence, at least to the extent that they're able to within the federal laws. And some of them are able to quite a bit. They're also protective rather than punitive. They're non-coercive. And as I mentioned, they focus on harm reduction. They also don't have things like waiting lists. They try their very best to give people take homes, at least the maximum that they could do within the federal legal structure. And oh, and I've got that thing at the end. Yeah. So clinics should they need to sort of understand when they're crafting not just their policies, but the way that they talk to patients in the counselor-patient relationship, that lots of these people are not so much interested in recovery from addiction and all of the sort of everything that goes along with that narrative, that they're more into pragmatic change in their lives, that many of them will want to use less drugs rather than no drugs, that many of them will want to use drugs in a safer, more stable way rather than get off them. And treatment providers, specifically counselors, because they're the main point of intersection between patients and clinics, need to really take this into account and understand this in a much better way than they do currently, because they really, the vast majority of them don't really understand this at all. They really demand that you kind of frame your treatment as being, I want abstinence, I want recovery. And a lot of people end up just internalizing that just out of necessity after a while, because you need your access to methadone, and that person can be a barrier to that access if they want to be. Next slide, please. So in terms of the discursive shift, I think we need to bring in some new narratives, or some new metaphors, excuse me. I think we need to start thinking about methadone maintenance as a form of either decriminalized opioid use or as a form of safe supply. For political reasons, the way the sort of advocacy community developed and the way the recovery community developed and the way methadone maintenance developed led to this idea that saying that methadone maintenance was a form of legal drug use or a way of swapping a legal drug from an illegal drug has only been claimed by like a real conservative, reactionary kind of group that uses it as a way to attack methadone and to attack people on methadone. I think we need to reframe that idea, because I think the actual substance of the idea that yes, people are benefiting from methadone by getting legal opioids rather than illegal opioids is right on. The problem is it shouldn't be used to attack the system it shouldn't be used to attack methadone maintenance or people on it. It should be used to attack criminalization. It really is a wonderful sort of example of how criminalization makes drug use so dangerous, and how methadone maintenance really works as a form of safe supply. If we do this, if we introduce these kinds of narratives into the discussion, and if we could find a way to reconfigure this idea of, yes, methadone maintenance does allow us to swap an illegal for an illegal drug, and what does that say about criminalization and the war on drugs? Then we can have this kind of treatment-based critique of both of the narrative of addiction that frames all of our problems as coming from us and our drug use, and that we can use to attack the larger structures of criminalization and the war on drugs that cause so much harm in the lives of people who use drugs. So yeah, methadone maintenance should be thought of as an example of decriminalization, and its benefits, the fact that it works so well, should be seen as an example of how great decriminalization is. So that's the end of my talk today. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again real soon.